Facility, B5550 Harbor Street Commerce, C5625 Gilson Street Commerce, and D555 Gilson Street Commerce.
All right, we are now recessed to closed session. but before we reconvene to open session, can we have a report out of closed session?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. With the 4 members of the City Council present today, present in closed session, the City Council met and discussed the following items. Item number 1, conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated potential litigation. There was one matter discussed. City staff made a presentation. City Council provided direction. No final reportable action was taken. With respect to item number 2, there's 4 different properties, A, B, C, and D. All 4 properties were discussed. City staff made presentations. City Council provided direction. No final reportable action was taken. Nothing further to report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, this meeting is now called to order. Can I please have a roll call?
Councilmember Guimedo,
Here.
Councilmember Garcia. Here. Councilmember Ribura.
Here.
And Mayor Altamirano.
Here. Okay, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance from Transportation Department, McFerguson, and invocation by Councilwoman Rebollo.
To the right hand over your heart, ready, begin. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, we thank you for the gift of the new gift. Father, I humbly come before you to ask for wisdom and compassion for my colleague and myself as we make decisions that impact the livelihood of our community and everyone in it. Lord, as we are living in this tumultuous climate, I ask for protection for our immigrant community, our local law enforcement, and all that are peacefully going out to exercise their freedom of speech. Please soften the hearts of the leaders that hide behind a false Christian narrative and remind everyone that in the Bible you tell us to love thy neighbor and protect the lesser of those, no matter gender, ethnicity, or immigration status. Lord, I lift up the families that are in mourning and those that are dealing with illnesses. We ask this all in your mighty name. Amen.
Thank you. We'll move on to public comment. We have one public card, Adela Martinez. Yes. Okay. And you have 3 minutes.
Oh, good evening.
You could drop the mic.
Good evening, council members. Thank you for listening to my comment. I want to ask if we could please have more Dodger tickets for the Dodger game that's coming up, because I'm on a waiting list and I heard there's a lot of people on a waiting list. And we also want to know if we could get another bus, please.
So those are the questions that we'll hand over to staff, and then we'll have staff communicate that with you to see if that's even possible.
Yes, please. It would be nice because
So you
There's the
provide,
waiting list.
before you leave today, Greg Alanese will get your contact information so he can reach out.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other public comments? Public comment is now closed. So we'll move on to consent calendar. And on consent calendar, we have items 1 through 4. Is there a motion to approve items 1 through 4?
I'd like to pull item number 2, and just for informational purposes for the community. Thank you.
Okay, we're pulling item number 2. So we're on consent calendar to approve items 1, 3, and 4. Is there a motion?
I would move to approve. There's no comments or questions.
Second.
There's a motion, second. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Item number 2. Who do you have any questions, or is someone here to report on it?
If you don't mind just going over the report, basically, from my understanding, is we're reinstating the rabies clinic that we've had for many years in the past. I'd just like to get a report so that the community knows and understands what we're doing. Thank
Our
you.
city clerk will provide you a report, and once the item is, or if the item is approved tonight, we will put out a public media campaign so that the public's informed. Lena, go ahead.
So yes, like the last rabies clinic was before the pandemic, and I know there was a council interest to bring it back. However, in the past, staff used a volunteer and provided staff support, which included about up to 15 people to just coordinate the clinic and overtime. And also we used volunteers that we don't have anymore, like Comcats and some other people volunteered that time. So in this proposal is just to bring, like, a lot of cities actually use this service, mobile pet clinic that not only providing rabies but like a full service like vaccinations and deworming and all other services. They totally staff that. We only would need to bring people to allow the animal licenses, which we also have not been doing since pandemic, and we're going to be massively sending reminders for people to license their pets and at the same time do all the necessary rabies clinic. The city will get, like, depends on the revenue, we also get like 5 to 7% of the revenue that will go to the animal control fund.
Lena, thank you. Appreciate the information, and it was just more informational for those that are tuning in, those that are here, and hopefully the word will get out that we're reinstating that program. It was very popular. A lot of people would show up for that, and I know through, over time you run into people, again, that'll ask about that. So it's good that it's on the agenda, and I'm glad we're reinstating that. Thank you.
It's a comment or a question, Lena. So when I requested this a while back, did they have the same program before, did you say?
It was only rabies that we provided, so this will be like everything will be offered, and they bring totally staff, the veterinarians and all the technicians that will be helping people with any of their requests. It will be $15 for the rabies shot, which is very discounted, like average price is $30 to $35. So it's still like pretty good price, and we want to like run with this program to see, because we can bring them as many times as we want during the year.
Oh. And we get compensated for this.
And we get 5 to 7% depends on their revenue. We get kicked back to our animal control fund.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, no, I have 2 questions. So other cities around us, they do offer free services to their residents. Did we reach out to like the city of Bell Gardens or Maywood to see what organizations they use for their rabies clinics? Or we just kind of just...
We use the volunteer. We didn't go to the surrounding cities, but most of the cities use that service of that pet mobile clinic.
Those 2 cities do?
I am not sure like about those 2 cities. Like I have to look at their list. Like they have a pretty extensive list that other cities use it. So if the council wants to subsidize, that will be a different thing. Or we can work with our volunteers that we used like about 5 years ago. However, it's a lot of coordination with the staff because we need to bring cashiers, we need to clean the area, provide everything. In this case, they come certain days that we schedule them and offer the service. Should the council want to do for the free service, we either subsidize or we have to coordinate volunteering.
So I think you're right. The council, we could subsidize it, or right, we can use organizations that that wouldn't require us to even subsidize. But it's whatever we decide today, I'm fine with. I just want us for the future to look at different organizations that actually provide these services for free. I honestly, off the top of my head, I don't remember what we used to provide, if it was free or if it was just low cost. But and $15 is pretty good. Second, I think we do have a base of volunteers that, if we're looking for that, we do have volunteers that are willing to come out. We have, for the posadas, we had 2 different teams that volunteered. Obviously, it was the older kids, right? I don't think we have a problem with finding volunteers. I know before we used to use our Comcats. But there are a lot of members of this community that constantly reach out to me. We have the embajadoras from the library still that are a big group that are still volunteering in our community. So I think if if there's a way to subsidize the cost even this, if we want to look at volunteers, all we need to do is put a post out and, we get college volunteers, we get high school volunteers. They're always reaching out to me because kids need volunteer hours for their senior theses or whatever it may be. But I think even though we don't have the same base of volunteers that we use in the years past, we do have a lot of members of this community that like to volunteer. They're constantly calling me to see when I'm doing an event, and they're willing to volunteer. So if we want to do that, which I think that we should, all we need to do is put a post out, reach out to our coaches, and they get their teams to come out to help. So those are my only comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any comments? Or would you guys like to make a motion to move item number 2 forward?
I'd like to make a motion to move the item forward.
I would second.
There's a motion second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. We'll move on to scheduled matters, and we have a presentation from our Sheriff's Department.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I hope everybody's having a good evening today. Sergeant Sergio Jimenez with your public safety brief for the entire month of May. Okay, this slide is going to depict our current standings compared to prior months of this year. I'm going to give you statistics, and I'm going to compare the statistics to last year's this month. So starting off with aggregated assaults, we have 3 to report this month. Last year, this month, we had 5. Robbery, we have 4 this month. Last year, we had 3. Burglary, we had 8. Last year, we had 17. Theft total, we had 67 this month. Last year, this month, we had 82. Auto theft, we have 31. Last year, we had 27. Arson, we have 2 incidents to report. Last year, we had 1 incident to report. Next slide, please. Now, this slide is going to depict our current statistics compared to other cities. These other cities are going to be Cudahy, Maywood, and East LA. Our closest one to our size is going to be East LA. Again, Commerce, we have 3 assaults to report. Cudahy had 5, Maywood had 10, East LA had 45. For robbery, Commerce, we had 4. Cudahy had 5, Maywood had 5, East LA had 13. Burglary, we had 8, Cudahy had 1, Maywood had 1, East LA had 13. And for theft, we had 67, Cudahy 7, Maywood 13, East LA 70. Auto theft, we had 31, Cudahy had 11, Maywood had 18, East LA had 58. And for arson, we had the 2 incidents to report. Cudahy had 0, Maywood had 1, and East LA had 1. Next slide, please. This is going to be your arrest statistics. We had 29 felony arrests in the month of May, and we had 60 misdemeanors. This is going to be your commerce activity by special assignment deputies. May 31st, 2025, special assignment deputies, East Los Angeles Station Explorers participated and provided security at the City of Commerce 65th birthday celebration, concert at the park. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. June 4th, 2025, SAO deputies assisted City of Commerce homeless team at Salcedo and Ralph Rivero, along with Ocean Blue team cleanup, several sites cleaned, and resources extended to any individuals encountered in these areas. This is going to be 7316 East Gage. Next slide. It's going to be Union Pacific lot right behind 7810 Telegraph Road. Next slide. This can be the I-5 southbound at Washington Boulevard. Near the off-ramp. Next slide. This can be the I-5 underpass at Slauson Avenue. Next slide. And again, in the I-5 underpass at Slauson Avenue. Next slide. Okay. At this time, I would like to make a statement regarding the recent protests that have been happening around the area. I prepared a English and a Spanish statement. En este momento quisiera dirigirme a ustedes en relación con las recientes protestas que se han llevado a cabo en Los Ángeles y sus alrededores. Deseo asegurarles a los residentes de la ciudad de Commerce que el Departamento del Sheriff del Condado de Los Ángeles no hace cumplir las leyes de inmigración. Esto está estrictamente prohibido por nuestra póliza interna y el Código del Condado. Cuando respondemos a llamadas de servicio, no preguntamos sobre el estatus inmigratorio de ninguna persona. Excuse me. En los últimos días, es posible que hayan visto a agentes del sheriff con el Condado de Los Ángeles presentes en lugares donde se han sido realizadas protestas. Nuestra presencia tiene como único objetivo proteger la vida y la propiedad. No colaboramos ni asistimos a agencias federales en la aplicación de leyes inmigratorias. Apoyamos y alentamos el derecho de todas las personas a protestar de manera pacífica, tal como la garantiza la Constitución de los Estados Unidos. No obstante, si las manifestaciones se tornan ilegales o representan un peligro para la vida o la propiedad, actuaremos de manera educada para garantizar la seguridad de todos los miembros de la comunidad. A los residentes de Commerce pueden tener la seguridad de que estamos monitoreando estos eventos de cerca y tomando las precauciones necesarias para proteger nuestra ciudad. Me mantengo en constante comunicación con las autoridades municipales para anticiparnos a cualquier posible impacto. Gracias por su confianza y cooperación continua. At this time, I would like to address the recent protests occurring in and around the Los Angeles area. I want to reassure the residents of the City of Commerce that the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department does not enforce immigration law. This is strictly against both our department policy and county code. When deputies respond to calls for service, we do not inquire about anyone's immigration status. In recent days, you may have seen Los Angeles County Deputy Sheriffs present at protest sites. Our presence is focused solely on protecting life and property. We do not participate in any operations with federal agents related to immigration status or enforcement. We fully support and encourage everyone's right to peacefully protest, as protected under the U.S. Constitution. However, when demonstrations turn unlawful or threaten public safety, we will take appropriate action to ensure the safety of all community members. To the residents of Commerce, please be assured that we're closely monitoring these events and taking necessary precautions to safeguard our city. I remain in ongoing communication with city officials to stay ahead of any potential impact. Thank you for continued trust and cooperation. Any questions?
Any questions for Sarge?
Just thank you. Thank you for the reassuring this community. I think that we are all in agreement that, people are living in fear throughout our region. People are living in fear in this community. And it's just reassuring to know what we already knew, right? So just thank you for that and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you. I also like to say thank you for giving us the information you just gave us and keeping us safe. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, you and your entire team for the great work you guys are doing out there, despite the very challenging circumstances that you're dealing with out there. So please stay safe out there. Be careful, and thank you for providing the information that you have provided to the community. Thank you. We, as staff, has also directed our city manager to provide appropriate information, via all appropriate channels in terms of what to do, what not to do in the event that they become entangled in a situation like that here locally. Hopefully we don't have any, but obviously we don't know what the plan is. We don't have any access to that information, but we know some of our neighboring cities have already been affected. They've done some sweeps in certain, Home Depot, I believe Huntington Park, in other areas. But we hope that it doesn't come to our community. But I think the most important thing is making sure that our community, our residents, know what to do if they're confronted with that situation. And there's a lot of good information that, we were going over the weekend. We're forwarding to our city manager, and I believe we will make sure that was available on our social media platforms and also on our website, so that way they know what to do if somebody comes knocking at the door, if they're stopped, and also providing appropriate numbers for legal services if they need those services, so that somebody can help and assist them in guiding them through these difficult situation right now. So again, thank you. Appreciate all the great work you guys are doing out there. Thank you.
Thank you. As far as, thanks for keeping us as informed as possible and staying in touch through text messages or phone calls. Be safe out there. I mean, I understand what you guys are doing there. You're not working with them, but you're there to protect. And some of the people, there's some bad actors out there that don't understand that or do understand that, but you guys are still being attacked. So I feel for you guys, but be safe out there, you and your team. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sarge.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to item number 6. An update on arts and public places, standing committee activities, and outreach efforts. So this item was just put on here just for a quick little update. And just to let you guys know that the post office here on Washington Boulevard, which I'm very surprised is reaching out to us. They would like, I think we need to start to begin some discussions with them. We should visit them to see what they're looking to put on their building. Also, Commerce Flowers reached out and they want a piece of art. And when I spoke to them, they were talking about the history of how long they've been here in City of Commerce, which predates World War II, and their family were put in concentration camps. And I'm sure you know their story.
Not the full story, but I do
Yeah.
know we all knew the owner and everything he had, he's done for our community. So.
So they've been pretty significant, right, here in our city for a very long time. So they want us to go take a look at a wall that they're looking at there on their building, and they want to have the brief discussion I had with them. They were talking about just the history of when they've been here up until now, and potentially have Duke there. Now, the important thing, or I think the critical thing here is that their daughter is attending one of the universities and is an artist. So she wants to be part of designing it and potentially painting on the wall with some help with some other artists, so we can visit and have a discussion. The liquor store also continues to call on Leo and Washington. They're looking to put some art. Well, the one of the buildings that's not here is the welding place on Washington Boulevard, and I forget the cross street there. But we had them on the agenda about a month ago. They're
Strong.
What?
Strong.
Strong. Okay, Washington is strong. Then Code Red Fire reached out to Lena and also the motel on Atlantic. And I don't know what motel it is yet, but these two other companies reached out. And you spoke to them, Lena? These two? Okay. So I think that the person that I think continues to call City Hall is Code Fire. Are they other ones calling you?
Code Fire sent like 2 or 3 emails to follow up when we're going to start the program.
Okay. All right. So I think we should create a meeting with each of them and at least begin discussions and stuff, so they won't be kind of left out in the cold, and they can know that we're looking to do something with them. So that it's just an update. So it's just a receiving file. You guys okay with that? Any questions? All right. Let's move on to item number 7, which is a teen art program at the Teen Center. With this, I've been approached by some of the teens. I've been approached by some of the staff, but also some of the artists that are eager to teach our community. And meanwhile, we put this on the agenda. I was approached by the senior citizens. They had a commission meeting. I believe that was maybe Wednesday. And they want the same thing. Whatever we provide for the teens, they want to know if we could put a class together for them that these artists will teach them how to paint, and then whether it takes 3 months, 6 months, whatever it takes, then from there, if they have a nice design that they want to now take it to a wall, so they want to paint something on a wall with the guidance of an artist. And the teens would like the same thing. They want to practice at the teen center on some of their walls there, and then you repaint it. Then they want to keep practicing until they feel comfortable enough, and potentially put something in the front of the teen center, or they choose a wall within the arts district, and they collectively, same thing with the guidance of an artist, can go out there and do it. So this is just basically some art classes that can teach them a lot of different types of arts, where we can hire maybe like 3 different artists, and this includes. Well, I was going to ask for us to add not only the teen art program but the senior art program together. Maybe ask for another $10,000 added to this, and that all includes the materials that they're going to be needing for both locations, any canvases or whatever they need for these classes, and then eventually figure out if we're going to take this out into the streets. So I don't know how you guys feel about putting a teen and senior program together.
I have a comment. I think it's a great idea to incorporate the art program for our teen center, self-expression, and for the seniors, to help them with the mobility, eye coordination. So I think this is a great idea.
I was approached heavily here while I was here at the city with the seniors, and I did tell them I'd go visit them, talk to them a little bit more about it. But also at the Las Vegas trip, I had some seniors asking me about this as well. So I did let them know that I mentioned it today to try to get approval. Is there any questions or concerns on this?
Do we know what artists we're going to use, or is that going to come back to us?
I was thinking of picking because out here I was talking. I don't know if it's in here, but I wanted to get like 3 or 4 artists that we've already used here. So we have Calixto that's done work. If we want to put something like that, we have Nerve. We have the graffiti artist, and we have in the past Jerome Castro that's done the wings. He's already done a piece of art inside the senior center. I think he put a butterfly in there, and he's also done the Star Wars pieces and the shadow art that is on Commerce Way and Sheila. So
That's 3 different types of.
they're all
right?
different. Yeah,
great idea.
they're all different. The graffiti artist has been doing graffiti since the 1980s, early 80s, and he does abstract stuff. Then we have Jerome that does like the wings and characters. We have Nerve, which does a remarkable job on his art. Then we have Calixto that does something totally different, that does texture art and stuff. So we can potentially just have them all, all to see which one the teens will connect more with and who they like, and then we could do the same thing with art, the seniors as well. So we have the ability to use them all, or at least 3, and see what they like. I think the teens will probably enjoy a variety of them. So I want to leave it open for them to be able to choose. So what I'm asking for is I know the subject reads Teen Art Program at the Teen Center, but I'd like to put the Teen and Senior Art Program at the Teen Center and at the Senior Center. And instead of allocating $20,000 from the Arts District Fund, I'd like to allocate $30,000 in total. That would include the labor for a period of time for up to 5 artists if we choose them, and also did I say the material and all the material needed for all this. It doesn't mean that we're going to spend all that money, but at least it's there if whatever they end up needing.
So you're adding to the recommendation from the staff report, instead of 20,000, 30,000, and to add the seniors, not just teens?
Yes, yeah. So it'll be called the Teen and Senior Art Program. One will be held at the Teen Center with the teens, and then the other one will be held at the Senior Center. And just to have them prepped to take their art to a wall out within our city. So I'm asking.
And sorry, for the seniors, that still would be at the teen center, right? Because that's where the wall is.
No, the seniors will be held at the Senior Center. They'll do the art there. Like they'll
On the
create
wall, or?
canvases.
Canvas art.
Yeah. And when they're ready, they were talking about getting like a huge canvas. It'll be like a wall. They could practice on that with the guidance of the artist. But if they choose and say we really like this piece of art, then we can talk about choosing a wall either within our space, inside the Senior Center, or outside in the park, one of the parks, or within the Arts District.
Thank you.
So, any questions or concerns? If not, I'm asking for a motion for $30,000 and to create the Teen Art Program and the Senior Art Program.
I'd like to motion for the teen art program and senior art program for $30,000 in total.
Okay, there's
I
a
would second that.
motion, there's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. So the seniors and the teens are going to have some art. And really quick, I am getting some calls to create something for kids under 13, and people have been submitting some art that these kids is pretty cute. I like their art, so I think eventually we should figure that out and have something for them. I think it'll be
Mr. Mayor, with that, can we get an update on how much money we have? Remember we had asked, I want to know how much money we have left in the fund.
okay. Yeah. Do you,
I believe we have 1,900,000, and we allocated around 200,000 now.
Can
But
we see
we're
it in
not-
like official documents?
I'll bring an update.
Thank you
next.
so much.
we can get an update next meeting.
If I may, Mayor and Member City Council, so based on the direction tonight, we will come back actually this Thursday for our budget study session with the essential budget adjustments from the necessary funds.
Okay. All right. Thank
We'll
you.
have fund balances and that information available.
Thank you. Okay. We'll move on to now item number 8. And this one here is, oh no, I'm sorry. Did I, looking at Veterans Park. Apologies. It's missing. Huh? Yes. Okay. This is another art program, Women in Walls. And this is something that we had been discussing for a little while. And there's some women out there that are very talented. They've done things like at the Dodger Stadium. They've done things like throughout Downey. If you take a look at Downey, they have a lot of art going on there, and other communities too. And what I was thinking to empower women is I wanted to choose one wall where they can collaborate and create one piece together within our arts district. And then once they're complete with that now any of the other walls that we choose, that people are reaching out to us, or we choose a wall that they have their own piece. So these women will have their own piece. There'll be 10 murals or their piece of art within the arts district. And then the 11th is where they collaborate together and they create something powerful, and basically for like a women's empowerment thing. And I would like to then move it to something that we have something once a year for women, to have some talented, powerful women come together and do something for the city. This isn't asking for anything yet. It's just to see if you guys are interested. So we can start to have the discussions. I already have through these other artists. They're starting to reach out to us, and one of them is some muralist that has been doing something at Dodger Stadium. And before she gets too big and too busy, I'd like to try to capture the opportunity and bring her to the city. Is there any questions?
No, I just have a comment. I think it's a great idea. But I know that we're focusing on the arts district, But if maybe now we can also, focus outside of the art district. I like the idea that you just shared about maybe a mural at each park. There's been folks from the Veterans Park community that have reached out to me, and also the Bristol Park community, just kind of reminding us not to forget about them, that they would like to see murals in their community as well. I did talk about the Triggs Tunnel, that we are thinking about them, and so yeah, if we could just focus on outside of the city, outside of the vicinity of the arts district. And I know it's designed right because we are creating an arts district, but also since we have so many moving parts and so many people reaching out, I think that it's a lot of art, so we should definitely try to hit all the pockets of our community. I know that the ABC community, they've been very adamant about the tunnel there and the outside of the tunnel that faces the Ayers community. If they reached out again and just asked if we could please remember that they are part of commerce, which we absolutely agree that they are. So let's just remember to kind of put some art out in those areas as well.
Yeah, I agree. That this arts district, I think it was designed to really. We have so much traffic, like on Washington Boulevard, Atlantic, Telegraph, and then within our civic center, we have like this is. I don't want to say it's Rosewood. I don't want to say Rosewood or anything like that, but it's where the city hall is, right? So it's a civic center where we have tournaments with the swimming and water polo. However, I really think that in Bandini and Veterans and Bristol, the ABC, Ferguson, and what I would love to start to really identify them like as Rosini, to make them like real names. That we create a small little arts district there for the community, because it's mainly residential traffic there, and I think that it'll be fun for the kids and the residents that live in that area. So I'm open to identifying some areas in all these parks and districts and really create something beautiful. I have had some calls from the Bristol area that they want to do some stuff, and I'm more than open to do that. As a matter of fact, I've been really thinking on how to create more revenue for the arts district, and I think that we should start to have some of the meetings now. We've got Hugo that sits on the arts district as well, that we can collaborate and come up with some ideas so it can serve all of City of Commons. So I'm open to that. That's a good idea. Thank you for bringing that up. Any comments? Are you guys okay with starting to have some discussions with doing an outreach for some of the women that can be involved with this?
It's a great idea.
Okay. All right. Okay. So this would, so then what do we do to our city manager? Let's figure out a way to reach out to some of the artists that know, well, maybe some of the consultants we've been talking to. If we end up bringing them here, I think that'll be a good way to bring some of these women, because some of these consultants do know a lot of these artists, but I'll leave it to you to figure something out. If you can report back to us in a couple of weeks.
Of course.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Did we find that system, or is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think I thought it was going to come sooner, but it might. Hopefully, I didn't want to bring it without Kevin being here. So they wanted to give us a presentation, but we'll wait till Kevin comes back.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just to be clear, so we're not taking action on this item tonight, correct?
The only action that I'm looking for is for us to start to either make a list of some of the women artists that are out there, to identify them. We might not know them personally, but if you know of an artist, like the ones that are creating some beautiful art in Downey, there's one woman there that is, I forget her name. You remember her name? Yeah, I forget her name. And she has these characters that almost look like the Bratz dolls. Oh yeah, Mr. Baby. Mr. Baby is one of them, and I'm not sure if that's the same one that's created art in in Dodger Stadium. But there's another woman that's creating some art at the Dodger Center. She's known for that. So I just want to start to make a list and start to reach out and see what it's going to take.
Okay, just wanted to be clear for the record because there is a staff recommendation here, and I did hear you say you wanted to hold off until Councilmember Linus.
Oh, what I want to hold off on is bringing some consultants here that's going to help us and guide us forward on reaching out to artists and kind of have a process and vet the artist. That's what I want to wait for. That's what
If you
Councilman.
look at staff's recommendation, staff recommends that the city council authorize the Arts and Public Places Standing Committee to establish an annual event title. It doesn't sound like that was discussed, and that's not the action right now,
Oh, okay.
correct?
All right. So I did ask for that, but if there, we need to take action?
Well, I just want to be clear for the record. I want to make sure that everybody walks away from
Well,
this.
Yeah, I believe we had a lot of discussion and it went in various directions and a lot of recommendations here. So I believe if we want to move forward with this, which you're right in terms of you're making a natural recommendation here. If we want to move forward with this recommendation, you're directing the Arts and Public Places Standing Committee to establish an annual event titled Women and Walls,
Yeah.
a women-led art initiative designed to empower and uplift and promote women artists by providing a prominent platform within the Commerce Arts District. And I believe all of the comments that were mentioned would basically revolve around that in terms of putting that event together, bringing these different artists, and all of that. I believe it would fall under that. But we do need to take some action, I think. on
Yeah,
this.
okay. So I do want to,
I would move if there's no
Okay.
additional
I'll
comments or
second that.
questions.
okay, there's a motion second, all in favor?
Right.
Any opposition, any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Okay, and then, so next move then is that I'm going to have a meeting with the Arts District Committee and start to have discussions on that. So Hugo sits on it and Mireya also sits on it.
Yes, the Arts and Public Places Standing Committee.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, perfect. All right, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 9, which is Veterans Park Programming Update.
Thank you, Mayor, Member City Council. Mr. Greg Alanis will present an update or a receiving file item related to the Modelo project and how it's impacting Veterans Park programming.
Good evening, City Council. Greg Alanis, Director of Parks and Recreation. Tonight's report is actually twofold, so I kind of want to just start off in regards to programming. However, I do want to just let you know there is no anticipated start date for the Modelo project as we know right now, so I want you to just keep that in mind. So the first thing that we want to kind of go over is about programming at Veterans Park and what we've been doing and what we potentially can do in the future should this come to fruition. So currently at Veterans Park, you all know that we removed the 2 modulars there, and we moved programming into the Veterans Park foyer, of which we continue to have park programming. Park programming began this week. I want to let you know that. In addition to the park program, we will have swimming available for our youth that participate every Wednesday, such as our other programs too. Our other parks will swim with them at the BVAC on Wednesday, so that is available for them. We continue with Tiny Times on Mondays and Wednesdays there. We started lunch program yesterday, and we're able to provide lunch services to our residents and our youth there. We continue with our HIT program, which is our our aerobics HIT program there, high intensity interval training. Our basketball courts are open. Our youth sports continue. However, I do want to let you know that although they don't practice at Veterans Park, they do practice at Bandini, but they represent the Veterans Park area. In addition to that, during the school year, we have our Tiny 2 program and our preschool program. And of course, we all know about our crush program that continues throughout the year. So that is our current programming. So what's going to happen in the future should we move forward? There are several options that I've provided you just to give you an idea of what we potentially can do and potentially get your feedback at the end of the presentation. One of the options that you've heard about is the Veterans Park Library parking lot. We can move a new modular. We've spoken to the company there, and they believe that we'll be able to install one there. However, we will need to work with Public Works and other departments to ensure that the infrastructure is there, utilities, sewer, things of that nature. And we can continue with programming out of that facility. So it is a dedicated spot. We can continue with our childhood programs, and we can alleviate maybe some of the overcrowding that is currently happening at the gymnasium. However, I do want to point out that unfortunately that site does not have turf area for kids to run, right? And we all agree that kids need to be outside running around. So that is one of the negatives, and probably not suitable for kids to run around. However, we still can conduct programs inside a modular there and be very effective. So that is option one. Option two, we began discussions with early this year. It's a much grander project, and it's almost considered a pocket park if we were to move forward, and that's the Gage area. And what I'd like to do is direct your attention to your monitors at this time. And we have these are just very, the infancy stage of just some ideas that were thrown together. Potentially, if you'd like to move forward or something like that. Go to the first slide. So it's about this is the property about a quarter mile from Veterans Park. It's about 1 acre, of which there's 4 parcels there, which could be transformed potentially into a temporary park, or who knows, maybe a permanent park in the future. Slide number 2. This is one of the concepts that was designed for us. As you can see, there's an area there for kids to run around, parking, and 2 modulars there. Now, again, this is very, just the beginning. We would want potentially apparatuses out there, picnic benches, maybe a barbecue, or a shelter there so people can utilize that area throughout the day. Number 2, please. This is obviously the same park, or the same area, excuse me, but with the modulars just off Gage. Just a different look. Of course, parking on the other side as well. And again, just some walking paths. And again, we would also put playground equipment out there for the kids should you want to move forward with something similar to this. Okay. Is that number 3? I'm sorry? Yes. Okay, thank you. Again, number 3, the entrance off of Gage there with plenty of parking and an area, again, for the kids to go out and utilize the turf area. And the last one. And similar, just a different placement of the modulars should we move forward with something like this. Again, then that parking would be off of Gage, and then an area there for kids to run around, or just people to come in and enjoy that area. There's a lot to think about when we potentially would move into something like this. But I wanted to give you options, something to marinate on and think about. It's estimated that potentially something like this could cost anywhere from $2 million to $4 million. And again, if this is temporary, if that's something that you want to spend, or a little more permanent, perhaps, again, we'll take direction from you. But these are some of the ideas that we've gotten, and we'd love to get your thoughts in regards to the 2 areas. At this time, I'll entertain any questions in regards to, let's just say, programming at this time and the facility itself. I'd like to, after I've answered this question, I'd like to go into the Crush, questions and facilities for Crush potentially. But I'd like to do programming first, and then we'll go into Crush.
If I may, Mayor, can you also add the plan for bringing kids from Veterans Park to the pool?
Yes, we do have, we have transportation for kids, for all our participants to utilize the BVAC on Wednesdays, starting tomorrow.
And
So they'll have access to the pool.
And so we'll provide access and transportation. That's important because the spray pool cannot be used right now with the amount of construction that's going on at the site. Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any questions?
Here we go. Just kidding. Is there a way to provide 2 days of coming to the pool and not just one? Can we do like Monday, Wednesdays, or Wednesday, Thursday?
We can definitely look into it, and we can start looking into it tomorrow, actually.
Okay, perfect. And this is just like a shuttle just for kids? Is it kids and parents or just kids to, with the staff leader, staff member?
It's our participants with the staff leader.
Okay, perfect. And is the waiting pool going to be open at Veterans? Do we know yet?
Unfortunately, it's not going to be open this summer. That entire area has been cordoned off with fencing at this time. At the beginning of the project, we were asked to turn off all the water, disconnect all the water, disconnect all the electricity on that particular side. So we followed through with that recommendation. So it would take quite a bit of work. However, nothing's impossible. But it is cordoned off at this time.
No, if I may add, the issue outside of those things that he pointed out to is that what we don't know is the amount of contaminants in the air, and they have to be mitigated through, the use of water basically to damper everything. But certainly, I don't know that even if it was deemed to be safe, the comfort level of the residents, at least this summer. So I think what we discussed was providing transportation so that the kids in that community have the opportunity to come hang out at the pool, and providing even greater opportunities for that. But the reason there's a variety of reasons why the spray pool doesn't work this summer, or is not a good idea.
Okay, so then that eliminates Veterans Park pool. Will the waiting pool at Bandini and Rosewood and Bristol be available?
Rosewood is available, and that's the one in the back.
Okay.
And Bandini is operational this week.
Not
Now,
Bristol.
Bristol, no. Bristol has been inoperable for the last 3 years. It has not worked. It is 50 years old plus, and it just hasn't seemed to be. We haven't been able to get it up and running. Now, should the council direct us to spend some money, and I believe it's quite a bit to even look into it, we could potentially look into that.
Well, I mean, we have summer already. It's probably too late for that. But what I would like to see, and even if it has to come to us in the budget, is a shuttle. So we're providing the opportunity for our kids who are old enough to go to the pool with the staff member, but not for our 6 and unders, right? Our tiny twos or, so I would like to see a plan for that, whether it be a pool shuttle for the parents to come with their child, right? Residents only. We sign up with the resident card at the staff office, or we're going to buy, I don't know, water games and provide water games for those younger age groups, because it's great that we're providing the opportunity for the older kids, but we're forgetting that we do have, our little COVID babies that are not old enough to come to the pool by themselves. So I would like for us to provide those opportunities for those families as well. So that's that for the programming. I do want to thank Marianne and all of the Veterans Park staff and the preschool teachers for providing the programs and the services that they are providing with limited tools, right? I think, and I know you and I spoke about this, I think it's wonderful that we're creating classrooms out of foyers and classrooms and spaces for our kids to have opportunities and memories. And, it's not the ideal spaces, but I really do appreciate that that staff there has gotten really creative. And I know the numbers are high. Kids are still going to the park, So I know that we have the numbers, but I also would like for us to go a little bit above and beyond what we have there, because that community has been very patient. We promised them a park. Gosh, what? I've been on the council 9 years. It's been what, 9 years? 9 years ago. We're 9 years and we're still discussing on what we're gonna do, and I don't see a plan, right? So I really, really, really think that we need to go above and beyond providing shuttles to bring them to the different parks, because if we're not going to be able to offer what we used to offer there, we're offering it at other parks. We just need to be able to have them access that. So I would like to see a plan for shuttles for the pool, whatever it is. I want to see a plan for these families, especially for our young ones that are not old enough to go on trips or to the pool. by themselves. I do like your option of, I've been telling you, right, that the option at Veterans Park Library is, I don't think it's a good one. It's a small space. I like the option of the pocket park. And I like scheme D, where they would access through Gage and not have to go in through the community and create chaos, right? They already have a lot of parking issues in that dead end. So I don't think we should be creating more of a problem there. But again, I love that we're talking about this, and this is a concept that I wanted to see. But is it really going to happen, and when is the real question? And who's going to fund it? Is it going to be funded by the Modelo project, which we were promised that it would be? And I want to see some action. I think we've waited way long enough, and I really want to see action. And even if Modelo is not moving any forward now, we need to create this, because by next, preschool time, kids should have a classroom. I'm super appreciative that we created the foyer into a classroom, but they should have a child-appropriate classroom with child-appropriate safety, child-appropriate bathrooms, and whether it's a modular, right? But they have to have their own space. But I appreciate the update, and again, I appreciate Marianne and all the staff at Veterans Park for everything that they're doing. Yeah, that's it. I do want to see shuttles for them, at least the Veterans Park community. If we're saying, maybe we don't want them playing with water there. They need to have access to go somewhere else to enjoy water games and the wading pool. And if we can't do that for Bristol Park, then we need to get creative with wading pools and whatever we need to do there, so that they could have access to water games and a little wading pool as well. That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Hey, Greg. For the Veterans Park area, just a quick question. Will the lunch program be going on at the same time as transportation to the pool?
Yes, but we have staff that are just designated for lunch program there. So at no time will it be closed. So
Do these kids
everybody
eat
will have
lunch?
access to lunch.
Oh, they will have access to lunch?
Absolutely.
Okay, just making sure. A follow-up question with the splash pads. Are we thinking in the future about splash pads since our spray pools do not work?
I think the original concept through Modelo years ago was to actually have a state-of-the-art splash pad at the park itself.
At each facility or just veterans?
Well, at that particular park.
At veterans.
Yes. And I know that the Bristol Park concept plan that we've been working on has a new splash pad included in there as well.
Okay, thank you. Also, it would be $2 million to $4 million for a temporary use of the modules that you said. Is that what you said?
In that particular, the Gage area. Yeah.
And that's
That's just a ballpark. We just got that from
And
somebody
that's-
that we work closely.
that might be more, maybe.
Well, it's not necessarily temporary, right? It's a long-term solution.
Would it
Not
be
a
a
long-term solution, because it doesn't compare as far as just the acreage for recreational uses, but it's a potentially permanent option, right? But without reviewing, without city public works director kind of looking into, reassessing those numbers, I'd be cautious about a number. I can come back with something that's more
It sounds a
real.
little-
The real issue here is the timeline that we have for the development agreement, right? And I don't want to speak to the terms of the development agreement, but some of the council members asked certain questions that are very related to what is obligations on behalf of the city, on behalf of the developer. And so I think that's a conversation that we should iron out first, right, before making any long-term commitments. I think one of the communications, I think, for the benefit of the community that we wanted to express tonight is that because we don't have, in other words, we don't anticipate this summer to be impacted by this construction beyond obviously what we're dealing with. And so we do have to mitigate the fact that they can't use a spray pool. So all of these programming issues that the city council is discussing is very important for us to hear so that we can make the proper accommodations. As far as the recreational facilities and long-term impacts of those, that's certainly something that we can discuss.
Okay. So one more question with that module, did you say it was included with the water and electricity already with the 2 million, 4 million, or whatever ballpark number it is?
For the,
The modules at the Veterans Park, Pocket Park.
yeah, actually, we don't have a number for, other than bringing in the modular, I think it's about 35,000. We would need to come to the council and ask for additional funds for,
Electricity, right, and water. Okay. Just wanted to be clear on that. And then, city manager, you stated that this would be for future use, like for programming for Veterans Park?
No, what I'm saying is that construction of the gauge site, right, is a permanent, more of a permanent kind of activity, right? So, in other words, what programming goes, right now we're talking about moving, shifting the Veterans Park programming to that site. So with that kind of investment, right, you'd want to consider in the future what happens
Right.
once Veteran Park gets fully developed.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You.
Do you mind bringing the renderings up that you presented, please?
would you like us to start at?
Well, I'll start with this one here, and I know that we potentially would want to, take advantage and use the parking right off of Gage, but one of the big factors here to me, and I thank you, Councilwoman Rebollo, for bringing up that, the issues of using the cul-de-sac over there on the other end of Watcher, but my thoughts are this is a very dangerous area because of the folks there travel at a very high rate of speed, and I can see us potentially having a problem coming in and out of there because of that. We've had a lot of concerns related to that, so if you could change over to your other schematic, which I believe utilizes the entrance coming off of Watcher. This here, again, I believe you would be using the entrance as gauge, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I really would urge not to do that because I really believe that we would be putting people at risk here coming in and out of the parking there because they do travel at a high velocity there. I mean, you're coming off of the freeway, going to the freeway, and it's just pretty bad. I really would recommend, let's look at your other option that you had on there. I like this option here. And I'm not crazy about exactly where the trailers are, but maybe we can put them at a different location here or move that, re-envision this. But I like utilizing this parking, and I'll tell you why, because again, you would come in through Watcher. It creates a little bit more traffic on that street, but I think it's a lot safer. You avoid all of this here, and it just makes better use of that place there. In addition, I believe that if you also utilize a portion of this, you could also solve some ongoing problems that they have related to parking there that have always been a problem. So you can address some of that. And already we touched on, and hopefully we find out what the obligations are related to the cost. And I know that project was supposed to provide us with another location, the temporary location, and they would pay for that. So we need to know what those numbers are, and hopefully it'll help with offsetting the costs associated with the total cost of us doing something. The better location. We've done nothing with this property here. It's been a blight for many years now, and it's created a lot of problems, and I think this would absolutely make much better use of this location here, and it's just much better use. And bottom line is that whole project is moving nowhere real quick, and we wasted too much time, and the community deserves something now, not later, and I don't see anything coming for the next 3 to 4 years. So we need to move quickly to try to make sure that we provide them with something adequate for the interim time while we're waiting for the other facility to move forward. So those are my comments. I really favor something along these lines. And again, utilizing some of this space and to help alleviate some of the problems that they've been having related to parking on Watcher. They've been having a lot of problems related to that. So when they close, they could potentially use that for parking, and it would help solve other problems there in the area there. So those are my comments, and thank you for the presentation and all of your staff and coming up with looking at different ways to try to address this problem that we've been having over at Veterans Park. So thank you.
Councilwoman DeBoer?
Sorry, as just as a follow-up, if we considered Scheme B, which you made a lot of really good points, Councilmember, could we also include a study of Watcher to, so that if we did it this way, maybe install some speed bumps there? Because I feel like we would kind of have that issue of cars coming out really fast or coming in really fast, and now we're doing this and they're going to do that in the residential area. But if we can include a study with our engineers as to would it be viable to put speed humps down Watcher? I mean, they've been wanting speed humps anyway. But if we did this, I think that would eliminate the danger of coming in and out of that parking lot really fast. You know, like let's just say, oh, I'm running late to drop off my kid for the bus for I don't know what, and now we're in the residential area. So, like we could just include that portion to Scheme B if that's a route that we would like to take. That was it. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Just out of curiosity, City Manager, this scheme that we see, do we need a one-way in and one-way out, or is it okay to have just one way in and out?
I mean, based on the size of the park, we think this is adequate, right? This was designed by engineers that are in this business. Obviously, what it would look like ultimately would be up to City Council, but specific to your question, the engineers believe it's adequate. So, me, I don't know.
Okay. All right, I'm in alignment and agreement with my colleagues here. Yeah, the Councilmember Argumento mentioned the bungalows. Maybe we get them moved on because it's on the main street there.
Yeah, I think, let's see if we can look at something else where we can position them at a different location. And I'm thinking maybe you didn't put them over on the left-hand side here. And I'm thinking because of the close proximity to the residential over on the left-hand side. That's what I'm thinking. But, I mean, if we could maybe move them in that location, or maybe even re-envision putting them along where some of your parking is, which means you're going to have to redesign this, moving things over a little bit to the left. But just re-looking at things. But I like them the way they have them along the wall here, along the wall. But then, you now have to maybe move the parking a little bit over. But just maybe if you can just rework it. I'm not crazy about where they're at now. That's all. And maybe it's just an optics for me, just looking at it. It's close to the street. You get the noise and all of that. And I don't know, it just made more sense to me along the wall.
I actually agree.
Okay, so maybe if we can just move it up a little bit and redraw this a little bit. I don't know. So just a recommendation, that's all.
All right. So go ahead.
Sorry, I'm making more observations as we're looking at it. Is this just kind of like a rough draft because I don't see like
This is very.
okay? Because all right,
That was the start of his
I don't see
presentation.
basketball courts. I don't like at least a basketball court.
Your general input is valuable because things like the safety issues, right? It's important for
Okay.
us to hear. But we are very on in a potential alternate process, or not
Okay.
alternate, but a process to essentially develop Gage, right?
Okay.
Irrelevant of the Modelo project, I think
Okay.
is what we're talking about.
All right, I just want to make sure that we at least do one basketball court, playground. Okay.
All right, perfect. So there's a receipt and file, correct?
Well, there's
Correct. There's a secondary portion. So go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you. So part two is Crush volleyball facility. So over the course of the last few years, I've had the opportunity to meet with Modelo and the past administration with them. And although there was discussions in regards to financial contributions, to my knowledge, there was no set number as to how much they would be contributing to a potential site.
So let me stop you for a second. So the development agreement speaks to this, right? We'd have to get really clear on what that obligation is. And it's related to the other side too. But I will say that ultimately, when this happens, right, we have to find an alternate location for Crush, right? So yesterday I spoke to the superintendent, very gracious, said he would do everything he could in his power to find an alternate location, including at the very initial temporary gym usage with a more long-term solution. The long-term, or the more long-term solutions, not permanent solutions, could be two options. One is develop a temporary site at Rosewood Elementary. Is it elementary? Academy. And the other is to lease an existing warehouse somewhere in the city that could house a use like this. But I don't want to get into the details of the development agreement. But essentially, there is some obligations. It's just we have to figure out where they would apply and how much those would apply. But very simple for you to understand is when we know more of a construction schedule and the impacts of the actual facility, because I think that it would be one of the facilities that goes down right away with regards to once this continues, the remediation and construction. We were looking at those two options. And so Greg's been actively talking to the school district, and yesterday I met with the superintendent and got his commitment and saying that school, I think the school, that specific school would benefit. We both benefit from that kind of facility. What I will say, the only caution he gave me is that the design and I'll give you a real short example, temporary bathrooms would not be allowed because the state wouldn't approve. So ultimately, a lot of the construction at the school site would have to still be approved by the state. And that obviously creates some additional obstacles. But in the interim, temporary use of certain gyms, that's the commitment that we have. There's also the option of just us basically modifying and leasing a warehouse for this purpose. Okay.
All right.
So can I say something?
Go ahead.
Going back to the school, would they be paying for that? Did we build something?
Somebody's going to be paying for it.
I hope it's not us.
It is, well, there's a payment and there's a reimbursement component that we would have to iron out, yes.
Okay. And the warehouse,
Same concept.
same concept. And this is something that we can probably use in the future. We find our own building, so we can build our sports complex, maybe?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. That's it.
Well, I will just kind of give a little information. So last December, we did meet with an owner of a warehouse and did a walkthrough, of which was perfect. Let's just say, actually, almost too big. But after negotiations or just discussions with the past administration, there was a cost of about $22,000 per month just to lease the facility itself, and that does not include the retrofitting in terms of bringing in the courts and things of that nature. But then again, that would potentially be on the developer's bill as well. So that's somewhat the cost. Again, that was a bigger warehouse than we would actually need. But if we were to potentially find another warehouse, we would find that the city owns and make it come up to standards, potentially we can move forward and crush it.
As an industrial city, I think there's an abundance of potential future locations. Again, it all depends on the timeline, right? And all options have a financial commitment. It's just a matter of, where that financial commitment lies. And I think that's the issue that still we would have to iron out. Obviously, as you know, we're still, even though we have an approved development agreement, there's parameters that still need to be approved, and that's where we would iron out some of these things potentially.
Could we just make sure that I understand the details of that, and that needs to be ironed out with the developer of Modelo project, right? That's what we're talking about. So I just don't want it to hinder or stop any of what we need to do. It should be independent, work that out. I mean, we'll catch them on the back end of whatever agreement we reach with them. I just don't want it to stop any of our momentum moving forward to make sure that this project moves quickly.
Understood. And to be clear, to your point, when the city moves forward, the city will be the initiator. The city will essentially deal with expenses and then, based on the agreement, get reimbursed.
Yeah.
But action-wise, the city is the initiator.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, yes, you're good?
Yeah.
All right, there's a receive and file, so we're gonna move on to item number 10, the structure and operations of the Public Safety Division.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Member City Council. So with the recent departure of the public safety manager and the existence of some inconsistencies in practices over the recent years, a thorough analysis was conducted of the public safety program. And that included meetings with staff, meetings with members of the public, meetings with the Public Safety Commission. Ultimately, tonight is the culmination of that analysis for the City Council to, one, be presented with a picture, let's say, of the current program and some recommendations or observations of the current program with regards to what it does and what it doesn't do. And that way, the City Council can consider that information and make any recommended modifications. Based on City Council comments and the direction that's provided, we will bring back corresponding budget adjustments as early as next Thursday and as many as are needed through this process. But essentially, we would make any necessary budget and organizational changes as it relates to modifying the program if the City Council deems that necessary. Okay, and so Natalie Hernandez, the analyst, will present basic information. Carlos Ramos, who conducted the analysis, is also in the audience, and he will supplement any questions, and I will interject when necessary.
Perfect. Well, good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Again, my name is Natalie Hernandez, Senior Analyst in the Admin Department. And this evening, I will be providing a brief overview and insight into the city's Public Safety Division. Next, please. So I will cover the Public Safety Division staff, city's partnership with Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, contract with Flock Safety for the city's license plate readers, and initiatives for you to consider moving forward.
And Natalie, 1 second.
Yes.
And Sergeant Jimenez is here, who's also aware of the presentation and can interject when necessary.
Yes, I was just notified that there's no live stream. Did the internet or something go down?
Let us check into that if you want to take a pause.
Thank you. Go quick. No, we could continue, but while he's working on it, go ahead, Natalie.
So as we know, the City of Commerce is uniquely protected through a combination of its own Public Safety Division and contracted services with LASD. The city has a residential population of approximately 13 residents, and as we know, leaps to over 100,000 during the day due to an influx of workers, shoppers, and visitors. As a result, the demand for public safety services extends beyond the needs of the residential community, requiring strategic planning and adequate staffing to ensure safety and security throughout the day. The city's population and business community mandates a strong, well-coordinated public safety division and a close partnership with LASD. Next, please. Let's start again, please. The city's public safety division currently operates in the field Monday through Thursday, 4 a.m. till 10:30 p.m. Currently, there are 5 community safety officers, 1 community safety specialist, and 1 animal control officer, and 1 office specialist 3. Several CSO positions are currently vacant, and 1 part-time ACO recruitment is in progress. As a result, the existing staff frequently work overtime to maintain coverage. And we're going to review the CSO positions in the next slide, but in brief, the ACOs are responsible for enforcing all state, county, and city laws related to care and control of domestic animals, also to ensure continuous public safety and service, and the Los Angeles County Department of Animal Care Control is on standby to respond to animal-related calls during hours when when ACOs are not on duty. And the Office Specials 3 assists with CSO dispatching, security alarm permits, camera rebate program, and division invoicing and time cards. Next, please. The Public Safety Division provides excellent service and maintains a strong, positive image with the community. The CSOs are responsible and conduct a range of duties, including receive report calls from East LA Sheriff Station and City Hall staff. They lock up the restrooms at Bandini and Bristol Park. They patrol the city by regularly monitoring neighborhoods and business districts to ensure public safety. They direct traffic and assist during special events. They enforce parking regulations, including overnight parking violations and street sweeping. They report suspicious activity and ongoing crime. And they conduct security evaluations at home through the city's camera rebate program. And they also provide vacation watch services for residents by keeping a close patrol of residents' homes. I learned that this one's not as frequently used because the public's not really aware, but I think it's a great service that the city does provide. The CSOs also assist stranded motorists, and they assist in taking criminal reports such as petty theft, stolen vehicles, hit and run, and lost property. Next, please. As mentioned, the CSOs continue to work diligently despite the current staffing levels. However, several areas have been identified where improvements can be made to enhance the effectiveness of their roles, such as CSO field coverage and responsibilities need to be clearly defined. The CSOs don't play a consistent role in regards to the senior center or have regular contact with the recreation department. So it's a good idea for CSO employees to go to the senior center dances, get in communication with them, build a relationship with them, and show their presence. CSOs need to improve communication and teamwork, such as receiving proper direction and what is expected of them. CSOs need to improve on recording success or statistics other than parking citations and have that record readily available if we ever need to see it. Newly appointed CSOs do not have sufficient training during the initial months of employment to ensure they can perform their duties safely and effectively. And although the CSOs do a very good job supporting deputies in the field, there is a disconnect with the everyday responsibilities of the position. And also CSOs appear to play a minimal role in supporting the neighborhood and watch program efforts. Previously, there was held monthly meetings with residents, and I think it's important to maybe reinstate that. Also, due to insufficient training, field personnel often look clear violation of basic city regulations. It seems like they focus more on parking citations, but as we know, there's a lot more than just that. Next slide, please.
Before you go on to the next slide,
Yeah.
so Mayor, Member, City Council, these areas of improvement are those things that we're going to move forward with implementing as we move forward. There is still the opportunity for the City Council at any point to provide input on those things that they would like us as a public safety operation, non-sworn public safety, to also do. One of the main things I think that popped out during the analysis, and Sergeant Jimenez can speak to this, is just an utter lack of coordination with our Sheriff's Department with regards to the deputies and the daily activities of our SAOs, and just communicating on both ends, right? Us helping them and them helping us. I think certainly moving forward, approaching this as a team is going to be the way that it's going to be implemented.
Along with our in-house public safety division, the city contracts with LASD for law enforcement for traditional police services. LASD provides various deputies to support city operations, such as one sergeant who acts as the liaison between the city and the East LA Sheriff Station, 6 deputies that are assigned to special city tasks, and a correction that I have to the agenda report is that there's 5 traffic deputies that work across to provide coverage also across various shifts. And then also to support the city and LASD in crime investigations, the city installed 20 license plate readers throughout the city in April 2023 with Flock Safety. along with the 3 security camera trailers that the city contracts with Backstreet Surveillance. And Backstreet Surveillance, their agreement expires August 25th, 2025. So it is recommended that the city council reviews whether or not to extend their agreement for another year.
So that is these portable security cameras. So we're having some performance issues there. So I think with the sergeant's input, we'll come back with an item specific to that with regards to the licensed reader agreement. We'll extend that as has been proven to be a successful program. But again, the item that we'll come back to will be the portable cameras. There's other vendors, right? And in other words, the function is good. This specific contract has had some issues. And so we may or may not recommend to go with somebody else. But the sergeant's well aware of it, our staff's aware of it, but that's why we mean that we'll come back with that item.
Next, please. So I also did confirm with Flock Safety, and they confirmed that all 20 license plate readers are live and in a healthy state. I have a copy of where the license plate readers are located, so if you do want a refresher of where they are throughout the city, I definitely have that. But these license plate readers provide real-time information on suspect vehicles in the area. They help solve crimes more quickly and potentially prevent them. They monitor for stolen vehicles. They search for individuals with outstanding warrants or missing persons. And as City Manager mentioned, the contract with Flock Safety is set to expire on August 5th, 2025, but we will be extending their agreement. However, we are meeting with Flock Safety on July 1st for potential enhancements or new technologies such as drones, integrated audio, gunshot detection systems, and live video integration, or anything else that we might see benefit to the city. So moving forward, overall, the CSO program and LASD have earned a strong reputation and among residents for their service levels, response time, and customer service. However, city staff is recommending that the city council review the current structure and operation of the Public Safety Division, including the use of technology, and identify potential areas for enhancements.
So, Honorable Mayor and City Council, this is where, if there's something specifically that you think our public safety program needs to improve upon or is doing that you would not like it to do, this would be the appropriate time to make recommendations. We will, again, take those recommendations, come back with corresponding budget modifications, and then those then result in corresponding organizational potentially changes. Again, Mr. Carlos Ramos is here, Natalie Hernandez is here, and Sergeant Jimenez can answer any questions related to any of these programs.
Any questions from City Council or recommendations?
I do. Well, I guess I need to review some of these here first, but most definitely, and I think we've had a little bit of discussion in the past. Obviously, we lost our public safety manager, and in my opinion, it's we need to make that a priority. We absolutely need somebody to oversee that department. And we need to most definitely make sure we get somebody as quickly as possible. And in addition, I believe that there's a lot additional tools and utilities out there that can be, I think, provided to further enhance public safety in our community and make our community safer. And those are the things that we should be looking at. The Flock system would be great. Obviously, I think it's been very successful in terms of identify stolen vehicles that are going through our community, and sometimes they've ended up in our community, started off in another neighborhood in another city, and they ended up here. But people initially, I think, were looking at that and saying, oh, wow, there's a lot going on in the city, more crime or something. But, it's just that they didn't understand that we have new system that's picking up stolen license plates, and now, there's it led to a lot of pursuits that were ending up here in Commerce. But at the end, I think, we ended up apprehending several individuals, recovering vehicles, and that sort of thing. But what I'm looking at is we need to utilize technology to try to help and assist our law enforcement partners, the Sheriff's Department, in, getting better control of situations. And let me just give you an example. You do have, drone technology out there now. We have a great ordinance here in the city and one that we've incorporated, I believe the city of Pico Rivera recently, implemented one of the most stringent ordinances related to street takeovers and things along those lines. But the issue then becomes enforcement. We also followed suit. We implemented a great ordinance also as well to do the same thing, increase fines and we wanted to find spectators, people that are spectators, but in reality, probably, how many have we done? Probably zero. We haven't done any because there's nobody there that is going to actually catch the individuals in the act. But if you implement appropriate technologies to help and assist in that, and let me tell you, like, we've even had the community where the community has posted stuff on Facebook. Hey, we've got this stranger coming knocking in the village, and thank goodness they were able to post things on Facebook. But for me, like, if you have a situation like that and you deploy a drone, and I'm talking about, not your run-of-the-mill drone that it runs out of range and then it's gonna, just, hey, it's too far, it loses contact. I'm talking about spending a little bit of money on a drone that can loiter for hours, a drone that can provide detailed information, basically do a pursuit without actually calling an air unit, let's say, right? But now you have video, you have pictures potentially of individuals that you can identify. Let's say you have a street takeover. You can hover over an area without them even knowing. You don't have to create a disturbance. You don't have to chase anybody, but you can get the appropriate pictures of the individuals, of the activity taking place. Now it's a crime in progress. And now you've captured it on video. Maybe you've gotten the pictures of the individuals. Maybe you got spectators, right? They're with their phone. That's a spectator, right? I mean, you define what a spectator is, and if they're filming it, if they're doing all these activities, they are spectators. So in my opinion, now if you can identify these individuals, and later you can go knock the next day or later in the evening, early in the morning when they're sleeping. Hi there. Were you involved in us? No, it wasn't me. Is that you? Yeah, that's me. Okay. So, I mean, we can now enforce some of these activities, and I assure you that it would only take probably a couple, and before you know it, the word would be, don't go to Commerce. Don't go to Commerce because they are on top of it. They're going to get you, and they're going to fine you, and they're going to impound your car, and that would take away from people wanting to be doing these kinds of activities. But for me, it's about providing the tools that we may need to make the community safer for everybody here in the community. And I'll tell you, we've been victimized by a lot of these catalytic converters. They've been hitting the community for years now. And for me, it's about, if somebody sees something, report it, post it out there, and we need to also monitor social media. And then now you can say, hey, look, we got a suspicious vehicle. They're out there at 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning when they usually go out and do these kinds of things. And you deploy your drone and, hey, we've got a report of something going on over in the street. Now, it's not to go out there, and this, let me tell you, because some people are a little bit opposed to, they think, oh, now you're invading a private property or people's rights and that sort of thing. I believe that the paramount thing of implementing such technologies is you need to have good policies and procedures. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got human beings that would be controlling these types of, whether it's a drone or a camera, but they need to know that these things can only be used under appropriate circumstances. In other words, if there's an incident, a report of a suspicious person in a neighborhood, now you have something to back it up. You're not just out there looking around the neighborhood, things like that. You have appropriate incident, you have a report that you can back that up. Hey, yeah, we deployed it based on this, and here's what we're looking for. And guess what? We did find the individual. Turns out it was something it could have been nothing, or it could be something else. So for me, it's about providing adequate tools. You got a lot of individuals that, in my opinion, out there, they're changing their tactics on how they do things. I mean, they're pretty brazen nowadays, these catalytic converters. Some of them are in broad daylight. The guys are out there, they get out there and they're taking equipment. But hopefully we can utilize technology to try to, again, make our community safer. The other part of this thing, us moving forward, is that we have an emergency operations center that is only activated when there's an emergency. And we have, several screens, just like you see here. We connect to the emergency system that is in place. But we should be converting that into a command and control center that can be active and actually, we should have a lot of our cameras. We have cameras at each of our parks now. We should be focusing that in there so that we have our CSOs that could actually sit in there, and they can rotate in and out. They have a direct line to the sheriff's department if something's reported, something going on in any one of our parks, or for that matter, let's say you have the drone that you can actually use now, have access to, and use, whether it's through Flock or with, if we have one, but you can deploy and say, hey, we got a situation, here's a location, we're getting reports of a problem, and you can get overhead and start assessing what's going on and just basically provide additional, I view it as an additional tool that we can provide to our law enforcement partners in making our community safer. So that's basically where I'd like to go with this, see what we can do in the future.
You've always had great ideas when we're moving towards safety, so I do like that.
Mayor, if I may, I messed up. So the presentation talked about those things in our organization that we're looking to improve on. The following items are very specific action items that we will be taking. So if I can have Mr. Ramos kind of speak to these. And then, I did make note of Councilman Argumedo's recommendations on how to move forward, or basically new components to our public safety program to move forward, which we will evaluate further. But if I can have Mr. Ramos kind of go through, these items are very specific items that we will be doing moving forward.
Good evening. Nice seeing everybody again. Thank you for having me. As the report was presented, the whole concept behind the assessment was to be objective. I've been fortunate enough to be in the business for many, many years, 4 decades plus, and the reality is that I think you guys have a great program here. It, does lack, unfortunately, immediate leadership like a manager position, having a field supervisor, those kind of things. So in meeting with the staff, I had a chance to interview many people, meet with many people, have follow-up discussions with many people about what's needed here. We can nickel and dime it and kind of beat it to death about everything that should be done, but in the basics of all of it, I really think these things listed on this, the recommendations and the review form I'm about to present are pretty spot on, with the exception of maybe adding a field supervisor. Unfortunately, people need to be held accountable for. Accountability in our business is everything. Accountability to the residents of this community, to the council, to the city manager, to the staff. I think the CSOs have the right attitude. Unfortunately, I think they haven't had the right training or the right immediate leadership, as we've discussed in the past. So, filling existing vacancies within the division, such as I think 5 or 6 CSO positions might be vacant. The manager position, as discussed earlier, considering a supervisor for the field is something I would consider. A lot of things that are lacking are the kind of training approach, and I can't come up with some considerations for the city manager to review when it comes to when somebody comes on staff. What do you expect from them? What kind of training do we expect from them? Who should be training them? What should they be trained on? One of the things that I believe that is probably the biggest problem in any organization, unfortunately including this city, is people rarely take a sense of ownership to what they're doing. It's normally taking, it's like that mentality says, I don't own it, so I don't have to be responsible for it. And I don't think that is something that's innate to us, to our heart. I think something that's taught and bad habits that are created. So I think that's kind of where why people drive by and miss the obvious code enforcement violations or miss things that really should be reported to other departments within the city organization. Or just addressing the problem because it needs to be addressed. So there are things you should consider, written and appropriate training procedures and, current policies and those kind of things as well. And establishing a clear set of standards about when the council or when the city manager, when should you be notified, under what circumstances? You know, when should a CSO should be notifying you? When should the sergeant and or the captain should be notifying you? Things. I think the report that Sergeant Jimenez put together is fantastic. It's very informative, but I don't know if it's real time for you. You know, last month's stats are important, but don't really have anything to do with today. It's really the discussion items at the council meeting should be, hey, I really liked what you did. I liked what the SAOs did. I liked what the deputies did. I kind of like what the CSOs are involved with. It should be active participation, because the CSOs should really be the ambassadors of what you guys do here. Should be the city message givers. They should be promoting neighborhood and business watch programs. They should know everybody at the senior center. They should know every recreation leader. They should know everybody in the most positive way. That's kind of how I see it, as I've discussed with you guys in the past. So, you know, developing that formal public safety campaign and outreach is very, very important in my opinion. I think it'll make sure that you have an opportunity for people to understand the expectation of council, expectation of the city manager, and to ensure that people will take ownership eventually.
And just let me stop you there. So in very simple terms, the members of this community, through various media sources, including our newsletter, will receive a very detailed communication about when to call the sheriff's department and when to call public safety. And so it's very clear for us, for you, about what duties and responsibilities each site holds.
And, you know, with that, I really think it's unfortunate because most cities want to brag about what they do if they do it very well. So, unfortunately, the city, you guys, when it comes to the public safety division, they track statistics when it comes to parking citations, but there's no way to track what they are doing out there, what kind of contacts they make, what kind of influence they have on the residents. How many times have they stopped and helped a motorist? How many times have they helped somebody who was homeless? How many times did they go out and deal with maybe assist with a lost child, or dealt with something at the park, or some kind of disturbance? Those kind of that information is important for you to understand the kind of the validity of what they're doing, as well as to ensure that, making sure that they are effective within the community the way you want them to be. So I'm here to answer questions, kind of draw on this. These are kind of suggested information, recommendations, you know, and we discussed in the past. There's a variety of things you can add or delete. We've had candid conversations about what the importance of making sure that the residents are kept informed, that they remain safe. In my opinion, my years as a public safety officer or CSO on the other side of it, before I became a manager or director, was just that. I took pride in making sure not just the parks were closed, but I knew everybody and make sure that I could always forecast or foresee what problems might be coming forward so I could inform the sheriff's department. Some of my closest friends are deputies I worked with. Some of my closest friends are recreation leaders, public works people. You know, my goal is to know as many people as I could within the city to make sure the relationships were effective. And I think that should be the number one priority when it comes to the CSO, making sure that focus on every aspect of what you guys expect from them is being met. With that, you can actually provide monthly information to the city manager. In turn, he can provide a monthly report to you about what the activities and the results are for what the CSOs are doing. Thank you very much.
All right, Honorable Mayor, the members of the council, additional comments from the council would be good.
All right, Councilwoman Garcia, you want to say something?
Thank you for your presentation. I really enjoyed it. This is what I'm looking forward to. This is what I want to see with the public safety. Working for Parks and Rec and City of Commerce, I do remember in the past that our CSOs would go out, get off the car and talk to us, sign in the logbook, and get to know us, the community and the staff. So I want to see that come back. I also remember them helping us if we lost our keys or we left our keys inside the car. They would help us open up the cars. I don't know if that's still legal. That, and then they would also help us if our battery died, jump our cables. Or I think that's what it's called. And so I love what I'm looking at. I like that you're establishing standards, clear expectations. I like the quarterly meetings that you have out here. And implementing the routine check-ins is perfect. So thank you for your presentation. I agree on everything that you have here. Thank you.
Councilwoman Boyd, do you have any comments?
I have a quick question. Because we're such a huge industrial city, do you recommend like a specific, like putting specific CSOs to only do the industrial part of our community, and specifically some just for the residential, or do you suggest that they patrol the city as a whole?
So I would always recommend everybody knows everything. Everybody patrols the city as a whole, only because if, say for example, you have 2, 2, 2, and 2, if some of those pieces are missing, the puzzle's never complete. So the concept behind all that is to ensure that everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing in case they have to fill behind or substitute for. And it's really not all that difficult if everybody has that team concept, everybody's working forward to the same goal. They all want to kind of be the best of the best. So when they're trained, they're all trained collectively over the collective whole, the big picture, not necessarily small pictures.
You know, we're too small not to cross-train. Part of the issue in the past that we have in other departments is that we have like very specific classifications, right? Facility maintenance, street maintenance, park maintenance, whereas maintenance worker, right, that we could move around and train through other departments would have been ideal at that moment, right? We recently did it with the rec coordinator position, and as a whole, we're going to move down that path to really benefit not only the employee, because employees can gain valuable experience, but more importantly for the organization to be flexible and be able to react better.
And if I may add, so for example, if a resident comes up to, say you handle a particular thing and I handle another, and they ask you a question that I'm especially looking at you and say, well, I don't really have that answer. So we really kind of want to avoid that. You want to ensure that the ambassadors represent everything that's most important to the city. Everything. Every aspect of every service you guys provide.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, it was very concerning to learn, right, that they're not being trained properly. You know, we hear complaints all the time. And it's sad that there's always this highlight of the things that they're not doing right, because there's also a lot of things that they are doing right. But of course, we're always going to hear the complaints. So I think that was really concerning as to the training, but it also goes back to not having the proper leadership within that department. And I think, you know, public safety is something so sensitive to our community that the proper leadership there has to be in place. Because if it's not, this is what we're seeing, right? We're seeing the trickle down of not having the right people there. So I really appreciate you going into depth into really looking at our program and what we have, what we need. And I think it's really important. I agree with everything that you're putting before us. And I think that us also, we have to establish what do we really want, right? And I think for the most part, we all want good customer service, right? Because we hear that a lot. You know, the old CSOs used to do X, Y, and Z, and I work Parks and Rec as well. And she's right. Like, they would get off at the parks, they would walk around the parks, they would know the kids that were at the park. They would honestly even play with the kids at the park sometimes, right? And that's something that's been a big disconnect now from our CSOs and from our special problems team, which is something that, you know, I specifically talked to the sergeant about, and it's something that I see that our special problems team is doing, right? They're engaging the community. And I don't know that I see that from the CSOs, right? So I think that's a key component that is very important, is the engagement of our CSOs with the community. Not just on, you know, giving tickets, but also just talking to the community. And, you know, sadly, a lot of our really good CSOs have left, and good for them, right? They've gotten promotions in other cities. Some are now in academies, right? Being a police officer. So I feel like we're losing a lot of CSOs, and I wanted to understand why, but now I see why. So hopefully when once we decide what we're going to do, we can retain our CSOs here and just get them the proper training that they need. So.
This specific industry, you want superstars that want to move on to the next level. But when they're here, they're going to operate under our culture and our policies and procedures. But absolutely, the majority of the folks that enter this business want to be a peace officer of some sort, and this helps them get there, right? But while they're here, because of that, best behavior, high performers, I think it's just our obligation as management to create the culture and establish the guidelines. Okay.
Perfect. I like the direction this is headed. So thank you so much, honestly, and thank you for reaching out to this consultant that came out and really is looking at things and giving us direction. And thanks to every one of you that are very close to this and also the drone stuff. I know you've been looking at that for a while. And I know you've been trying to really up the game with public safety ever since the COVID stuff happened. And they were attacking all the stores. And Beverly Hills had some sort of plan, right? And ever since, you've been really pushing for this stuff. So I think it's good for our city. What's next?
I think we just, we received your input, and if there is going to be some potential, there will be some budget adjustments that will be in the Thursday meeting, and then we'll move forward from there. I think what we'll do for the technology is we'll allocate an amount of money, and then post our July 1 meeting and bring that to the city council. We can adjust that figure. But essentially, I think we heard enough information today to take the next step.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Perfect. Then we'll see each other Thursday. So then we're going to move on to the council reports. And who's ready? All right. Councilwoman Rebollo is ready, I think. Oh, did you say you're ready? Oh, you're not. Okay. You're ready? Okay. You go. Councilman Garcia.
All right, well, I attended the 65th birthday celebration. That was a great event. Thank you, Greg, for putting that wonderful event together with your staff. The drone show was sight to see. It was pretty neat. That was my first time seeing that. It was kind of exciting for me. Just to see those little things just stick together somehow. I don't know. That was kind of interesting. Great job delegating the staff in different areas, from the decorations, the setup, and entertainment. The music was wonderful. That was a flashback to me from the 80s. I loved it, and it was well attended. So great job, you and your staff. I also went to the Las Vegas excursion. That was my first time. I want to thank the residents for signing up and spending time with me. Thank you for that. Special thanks to my host who kept the entertainment going from the start all the way to the end. It was an exhausting trip for him. Thank you, Danny, for that, and your crew. And then I have something like a fun fact. The Army was established on June 14th, 1775. And on June 14th, 2025 is the 250th birthday of the U.S. Army. Did you know that, City Manager, since you were in the service?
I have a tattoo to my back.
Okay, great. Also, earlier, I didn't say this, but I think the sergeant left already. But I want to thank the city manager and our sheriff's department for providing resources for our community on our city websites regarding the issues that are going on right now with ICE. I want to ensure that we are here to support the families in our community, stay well informed, and stay safe. This is a time for us to stay united. And Mayor, if you don't mind, we can adjourn the meeting with Ms. Marina Bejarano. With heavy hearts, she passed away today. Ms. Marina Bejarano was one of the original members of the Commerce Aquatics Booster Club. My condolences to the Bejarano family. Tina, Louie, Carmen, and Michael, if you need anything, let me know. Thank you. That concludes my reports.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rebollo.
Thank you. Just want to thank Parks and Recreation again. As was mentioned, the city birthday was just amazing. I know we weren't able to celebrate in 2020 because of the pandemic, so it was just really awesome to be able to kind of just celebrate even bigger for the 65th. So, Greg, thank you for putting that together with your team. Thank you to Greg, Patty, Adolfo, AG, and all of the staff that worked on making sure that the event was successful. And as you mentioned to me, Greg, kudos to Frank Garcia for putting that little idea in your head about the drones. It was fantastic. I know it sounds a little gushy, but I was a little emotional when I was watching it, because it's, you're watching your history and everything that you provide for the community come to light in these little, like was mentioned, in these little lights, right? So it was really amazing. The community had a blast. I don't know how many people kept coming up to me and just thanking the city council for everything. I would like to thank all the departments that were there as well, giving out information. the directors that were there. I know I've seen planning and public works, libraries. I think every department was represented. So I would also like to thank every single department and their staff that was there. Some of you even brought your significant others and your families to celebrate. And I think that's the beautiful thing about our community, that we're all one big family, and the employee family and the residents just really come together. So it was just really nice to see everybody celebrate our city birthday. So kudos to everybody that put that together, especially our maintenance, who was there, making sure it was clean, making sure everybody made this event successful. So I want to make sure that we acknowledge every single department that helped make this event successful. I too would like to thank the community that signed up to go to our excursion this weekend. I believe everybody just had a blast. They talked about how excited they were to see it come back after it's been gone since pandemic. So it was a lot of work. So thank you to all of your staff, Greg, at Parks and Rec, all the rec leaders that had to load and unload, and our volunteers and our staff on our buses. For me particularly, our Fiesta crew, thank you so much for making our bus the best one. I will say that. I'm not going to be biased, but I will say that my bus was the best bus. And with that, I just want to remind our community that we are here as a united community, regardless of immigration status, but also know that there are resources available. We have red cards free of charge at City Hall, at the library, at our parks. I want to thank the library because I know initially you have provided and have my library commissioner reported to me everything that you're doing as far as resources for our community. So Sonia, thank you very much for that. And just make sure that for the community, just know if you need information, please reach out and come get these red cards. There's a couple of us starting a little movement. I know that, it's very real. I hear about it on the news and people talk about it, but it's very real. There are people within this community who are scared to go to work, who are scared to go out. They're scared to even go to the park and get free lunches for their kids. So I am making myself available to deliver lunches, just like we did it in the pandemic. So please, please, please reach out to me. If anybody needs help with lunches, with shopping for groceries, we are mobilizing with different organizations that are actually also assisting families that are not going to work. We don't have a system set in place yet for financial support, but we are working on that for immigrant communities, our immigrant residents who are afraid to go to work, because it honestly is a real thing. And I just want to make sure that the community knows that we are here for you, and reach out to me if you need any of these resources. And just as the city as a whole, right? Let's come together. Let's pray. Let's exercise our right to protest peacefully. And I do want to thank the many, people that are out there protesting and making their voices heard. There's been prayer vigils, and I do want to acknowledge that, the media is not covering all the peaceful protesting that is happening. And I do want to say thank you to those that are using your voices. And to those that are not, let's remind folks that our message gets lost when there's violence. So let's always remember to follow the footsteps of Dr. King, and so just to the community, just know that we are here. We will continue to pray for each other. So take care of each other. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you to my colleagues for their great reports. You guys made my job very easy. So I'll just try not to be so redundant. But again, Greg and all of our Parks and Recreation staff and everybody, you guys really put on a great show. It was very well attended. And I know you get a lot of, sometimes, oh, why didn't you guys do this? Why didn't you, you'll hear it from us up here. But the reality is that you guys have always stepped up and provided outstanding events. All of our staff really, does a great job in putting events together and making them very successful. And this was no exception. So again, congratulations to everybody. We want to thank everybody involved in putting everything together, but to the leadership staff that made it all happen. Thank you very much. Appreciate all your support. Our Las Vegas excursion, again, was no exception. You guys, again, performed and put an exceptional event together for everybody, for the residents and the business community to attend and enjoy. And it was great. I think we all had a great time. I do want to thank all of our staff because I saw them out there early, only because I was riding a bike and I stopped over and I saw them all. I'm sorry, not for the Las Vegas excursion, but for the 65th birthday. Saw them out there early in the morning. I stopped and I was watching as they were putting events together. But back to the Las Vegas excursion, I do want to thank AG and his wife, Elba, who were my city hosts on our bus. I want to thank them for their great job that they did. They did an outstanding job. And also my daughter, Lori, and her husband, Junior, who were the non-city employee hosts on my bus. They did an outstanding job helping and just helping everybody on the bus. And also her friends, Jesus and Sandra, who were former residents of Commerce, but they're still, tied into us. And they also went on the trip but volunteered to actually help and helped out. So I want to thank all of them for making it a great trip, very, very nice, and we all enjoyed it. So again, thank you. And I know the rest of my colleagues had a great time as well. So I want to thank everybody. And also with regards to the whole situation with these unfortunate things going on throughout our country now, we just want to let you all know that we're all here for you. So let us know if you need any help or any assistance with anything. We've provided appropriate direction and guidance to our staff to provide all of that information and make it available to the community. But if you do want to reach out to any of us with any help and assistance you may need, I know that all of us are available to help and assist you. So please reach out to any one of us that is up here, and we'll be more than glad to properly direct you or help you personally ourselves. I know that's just the type of counsel you have up here. So, feel free to reach out to us and we'll try to help and guide you through this difficult time that we're all going through. So again, thank you. And when we adjourn, Mayor, if you don't mind, I'd like us to adjourn in honor of Esther Flores. And she was the wife of Mr. Art Flores, who is a member of our senior social club and also a member of the Lions Club. So if we can adjourn in her honor, please. Thank you.
Okay, I won't be redundant either, right? It's a lot, but the Vegas trip wasn't an awesome trip. Thank you, Greg, and the entire staff and all the residents that were involved in the Vegas trip. It was a nice trip. The birthday, I was impressed. It was an amazing event. I think the entire time I've been here on City Council, I think that was the best birthday that I've seen that the city has had, even though it wasn't in January. And so moving forward, I'd like to talk about it. Maybe there's questions for our city attorney. Our manager. Is that do we need to put it on the budget meeting? I would like to see a birthday in January, whatever, with the cake and stuff. But I really like what they did this year, and I think the residents really enjoyed it. I don't know if you want to see that every year, to have an event like that for the city birthday, or not. But we can talk about it in our budget.
We can talk about it Thursday. Okay.
Sounds good. All right. And also to our city manager, I would like an update on the. We talked about creating a book for the catching up with where we left off in the 90s and forward. Do you know who's going to be working on that? I'd like an update, maybe the next city council meeting. Who's going to work on that? Has anybody taken any action on that? Things of that nature.
We'll give you an update this week.
Thank you. And also, we spoke about the interviews for former council members and current. That way, everything's documented. I just don't want to lose any of the history of what's going on. Right now, we have some of the former council members like Sylvia Munoz, we have Luisa Leon, we have Art Marquez. There's a Jesus Cervantes.
For the history book, correct?
No, this is something separate that I don't know if I've been talking to myself about it or I've actually, because I do have conversations to myself. I don't know if you guys do, but I do. But I don't know if I brought this before. There's so many things that has happened.
So let us review the record, right?
Okay.
But I know what was approved, or I remember the approval.
Okay.
Certainly, I mean, that's something our own staff can help conduct and then relay that information to the historian. But we can make it happen.
So separate of the book, what I want is for each former council member and current council to be able to whatever they have, like what they've seen. I don't want to lose the history of what they know about the city, because it seems like we're losing a lot of the history. And I thought I brought it here, but maybe not. I'll talk to you.
So you and I can discuss.
Okay.
I'm happy to inform the city council that you have the Burger King staff here. You get it your way. All right.
You know what? I don't care what Linwood says about you, nor Norwalk, and wherever else you work. I'm like Hawaiian Gardens too. I don't care what anybody says about you. Thank you. Okay, so at this time there, I'm going to adjourn, and can we adjourn in both residents that Councilmember Quimero and Councilwoman Garcia mentioned? The meeting's now adjourned. Thank you.